A young man dreaming of Hollywood, but what awaited him wasn't just open doors, it was mocking stares and harsh words. "You, an actor, don't make me laugh." But for Clint Eastwood, that moment wasn't the end, it was a silent beginning. Years later, when he reached the top of the industry, the same people who dismissed him would come knocking. The question was, what would Clint do? This is a story of resilience and quiet revenge. The year is 1953, and Hollywood is a glittering fortress of dreams, a place where stars are born and dreams are either realized or shattered. For every Marilyn Monroe or Marlon Brando, there are thousands of hopefuls who fade into obscurity, their aspirations crushed under the weight of rejection and indifference. On a chilly Los Angeles morning, a young man steps into a small, dimly lit audition room. His name is Clint Eastwood, and he's just 23 years old. His clothes are worn, his pockets nearly empty, but his eyes burn with a fire that refuses to be extinguished. He's here to prove himself, to show the world that he belongs. As he enters the room, the air is thick with the scent of cigar smoke and arrogance. The producers, dressed in tailored suits, sit behind a long table, their faces etched with indifference. Clint's heart pounds in his chest, but he doesn't let it show. He takes a deep breath, steps forward, and begins his audition. Before he can even finish his first line, one of the producers interrupts him with a dismissive wave of his hand. "You think you're going to be an actor?" The man sneers, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're ridiculous. There's no place in Hollywood for someone like you." The room erupts in laughter. Clint's fists clench at his sides, his jaw tightening as he fights to keep his composure. His eyes narrow, but he doesn't speak. Instead, he takes a deep breath, turns on his heel, and walks out of the room, the sound of their laughter echoing in his ears. Outside, the rain begins to fall, mingling with the tears of frustration that threaten to spill from his eyes. But Clint doesn't cry. Instead, he whispers to himself, "This city won't break me." It's a promise, a vow to himself that he will rise above the humiliation and prove them wrong. Clint doesn't give up, he can't. Hollywood is a harsh and unforgiving place, but he's determined to make his mark. He auditions for every role he can find, no matter how small. He takes on background roles, works as an extra, and even does odd jobs on set just to stay close to the industry he loves. But rejection becomes a constant companion. He's told he's not good enough, too tall, too awkward, or simply not what they're looking for. One night after yet another failed audition, Clint returns to his small, dingy apartment. He's hungry, tired, and defeated. He sits on the edge of his bed, staring at the cracked mirror on the wall. For a moment, he allows himself to feel the weight of his struggles. "I failed again," he thinks, but then he remembers the words of Joe, an older lighting technician he met on set. Joe had told him, "If you really want it, never give up." Those words become a mantra for Clint. He spends his nights studying old films, practicing his craft in front of the mirror, and perfecting his expressions and body language. He knows that if he's going to make it, he needs to be better than everyone else. He needs to be undeniable. Years pass, and Clint's persistence begins to pay off. He lands small roles in television shows and B-movies, slowly building a reputation as a reliable and hardworking actor. But the memory of that humiliating audition never fades. It lingers in the back of his mind, a constant reminder of the obstacles he's had to overcome. One day, while working on a film set, Clint runs into one of the producers who had mocked him all those years ago. The man's face still carries that familiar, condescending smirk. He offers Clint a small role, almost as if he's doing him a favor. Clint feels the old anger rise within him, but he pushes it aside. He knows that this is his chance to prove himself, and he's not going to let pride get in the way. Over time, Clint transforms from an underestimated newcomer into a consummate professional. His growth through adversity shapes his identity, and he becomes known for his quiet intensity and unwavering determination. He's no longer the young man who was laughed out of an audition room. He's a force to be reckoned with. Years later, Hollywood is a different place. The old guard is fading, and new stars are rising. The producers who once ruled the industry are struggling to stay relevant. Their careers are in decline, and their projects no longer garner the same attention. Desperate for funding for a major Western film, they reach out to an old acquaintance who suggests, "There's a man named Clint Eastwood. He's shaking up Hollywood. You should talk to him." The young man they once dismissed has become a towering figure in the industry, not just an actor, but a director and producer with monumental success. These producers now seek Clint's support for their project. Clint agrees to meet them. As he walks into the room, he sees the men who once looked down on him sitting across the table. His gaze sweeps over them, and for a moment, he allows himself to savor the irony of the situation. His body language is relaxed, but the expression on his face reveals the silent revenge he's carried for years. He tilts his chin slightly upward, his eyes narrowing as he listens. His voice is calm and firm, with a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. The producers, desperate to forget their past words, realize that even a moment in his presence is a form of victory. Clint listens to them, his expression unreadable. Then, with a slight smile, he delivers a single line. "I believe you once told me there was no place for me in Hollywood, but it seems I'm here now, are I?" The producers bow their heads. One of them swallows hard and says, "We are aware of what we said in the past, but we are in a different place now." Clint narrows his eyes and pauses for a moment. The room falls silent. Then, slowly, he extends his hand, and a polite handshake follows. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is success. Years later, Clint Eastwood isn't just one of Hollywood's greatest actors, he becomes a legend. His name is etched into the annals of cinema history, with iconic films bearing his signature. The producers who once laughed at him are now forgotten names. As Hollywood evolves, Clint's star continues to shine. And the most ironic part. Years later, at a major awards ceremony, Clint takes the stage. He holds the award in his hand, takes a deep breath, and begins his speech. "Years ago, someone told me there was no place for me in Hollywood, but here I am." His words echo through the hall, and the producers who once mocked him hang their heads in shame. In that moment, they realize that the greatest revenge is to become unforgettable. That night, Clint returns to his hotel room and stands by the window, gazing at the Hollywood sign outside. For a moment, he remembers the young man in that audition room all those years ago. He looks in the mirror and smiles faintly. Perhaps this entire journey was exactly what it was meant to be from the start. Do you think success is the best revenge, or is it about confronting the past? If you were in Clint's shoes, would you forgive, or would you teach them a lesson for their past injustices? What would your idea of revenge be? Would it be a quiet, dignified rise to the top, or a more direct confrontation with those who wronged you? How do you define justice in the face of adversity? Clint Eastwood's journey is a testament to the power of resilience and self-belief. His story raises profound questions about the nature of revenge, success, and justice. Is revenge about making others suffer, or is it about proving to yourself that you are more than the limitations others impose on you? For Clint, revenge was not about vengeance, but about transformation. He didn't seek to destroy those who wronged him. Instead, he sought to rise above their narrow-mindedness and become a symbol of what perseverance can achieve. In life, we all face moments of rejection and humiliation. The question is, how do we respond? Do we let those moments define us, or do we use them as fuel to propel us forward? Clint's story suggests that the most powerful form of revenge is not in tearing others down, but in building yourself up. It's about creating a legacy that outshines the shadows of the past. So what would you do? Would you choose to forgive and move on, or would you use your success as a silent reminder to those who doubted you? Would you confront your past, or would you let your achievements speak for themselves? In the end, perhaps the greatest revenge is not in the act of retribution, but in the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you proved them wrong, not for their sake, but for your own.